Every prince failed her royal test, until she saw a human janitor and said you. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The royal palace of Valerius gleamed like a diamond against the backdrop of 3 moons. Within its crystalline walls, Princess Alara stood rigid as another suitor departed in disgrace, the 78th prince to fail her impossible challenge. Princess Alara watched through the tall, crystalline windows as Prince Dorvan's ship departed from the royal landing pad. The Arcturian royal shoulders had slumped in defeat as he'd walked away, just like all the others before him. She sighed, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. The test wasn't meant to be impossible, yet no one had come close to passing. Another disappointment, Your Highness? Royal advisor Thelmar approached, his long robes sweeping the polished floor. He lasted longer than most, Alara admitted, turning away from the window. But in the end, the same result. Thelmar's facial ridges furrowed with concern. Your father grows impatient, Princess. The celestial alignment approaches in 6 cycles. The ancient laws are clear. You must choose a consort before then, or the Council of Elders will select one for you. Alara's silver eyes flashed dangerously. I am aware of the laws, advisor. I wrote half of our modern legal code myself. Of course, Your Highness, Thelmar bowed slightly. I merely worry. 78 candidates from the noblest houses across 7 star systems, and not one has passed your challenge. Alara walked to her royal chamber's central platform, activating the holographic displays that surrounded her working space. Complex equations and star charts sprang to life around her. The test is fair. I need someone who can think beyond what they've been taught. Someone who sees possibilities where others see only rules. Perhaps we should consider widening the search parameters, Thelmar suggested carefully. There are other noble houses in neighboring systems. It won't make a difference, Alara cut him off. They're all the same. Trained from birth to think inside the same rigid structures. I need someone different. As if on cue, a shuffling sound caught their attention. A human male in gray maintenance coveralls had entered the chamber, pushing a cleaning cart. He froze when he realized he had interrupted a royal conversation. Apologies, Your Majesty, the man said, bowing awkwardly. I was told the chamber would be empty at this hour. Thelmar bristled. How dare you enter without permission? The princess is in conference. Leave at once. Wait, Alara said, studying the human with sudden interest. You're new to the palace staff. The human straightened but kept his eyes respectfully lowered. Yes, Your Highness. Tyler Grant. I started last cycle. Part of the cultural exchange program with Earth. A human janitor in the royal palace. Thelmar muttered disapprovingly. What is the staff manager thinking? But Alara was intrigued. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago. They were still considered primitive by most advanced species, but there was something about them that fascinated her. Tell me, Tyler Grant of Earth, what did you do before coming here? She asked. Tyler looked up, surprised to be addressed directly by the princess. I was studying theoretical physics at university, Your Highness. But there was an accident in the lab. Nothing dangerous, he quickly added. Just expensive. I lost my scholarship. This exchange program offered good pay, so here I am. A physicist working as a janitor, Alara mused, a smile playing at her lips. Not quite a physicist, Tyler corrected, then winced at his own boldness. Just a student. 3rd-year undergraduate. Thelmar stepped between them. Your Highness, we have matters to discuss. The human can return later. No, Alara said firmly. She pointed at Tyler. You. Tyler blinked. Me? Him. Thelmar echoed, aghast. You will take my test, Alara declared. The chamber fell silent. Tyler stood frozen, the cleaning supplies still in his hands, while Thelmar's mouth opened and closed several times before he found his voice. Your Highness, this is unprecedented. The test is for royal suitors only. This human is a janitor. I am aware of his position, Alara replied calmly. And I am also aware that I make the rules of my own test. But the council established that I must choose a consort. They did not specify from which pool of candidates I must select, Elara countered. The law states only that the chosen must pass the royal test. Tyler finally found his voice. I'm sorry, but what test are we talking about? Elara turned her silver eyes on him. The test of cosmic understanding. Every potential royal consort must pass it before being considered eligible for marriage to the crown princess of Valerius. Tyler's eyes widened. Marriage? Test. Your Highness, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just here to clean the... Do you wish to return to Earth immediately? Elara asked. Well, no, but... Then you will take my test, she stated with finality. Now, Tyler looked from the princess to the outraged advisor and back again. This had to be some kind of joke, but the princess's expression was deadly serious. What does this test involve? He asked cautiously. Elara gestured to the holographic displays surrounding them. You see before you the greatest cosmological puzzle in our known universe, the Void Nexus. For centuries, our scientists have tried to understand why interstellar travel through this region results in ships emerging at random points, often hundreds of light years from their intended destination. The hologram shifted to show a swirling mass of darkness punctuated by flashes of energy. 78 princes have tried to solve this puzzle. All have failed, Elara continued. You have 1 day to provide a solution. Tyler stared at the complex display. 1 day to solve something your best scientists haven't cracked in centuries? That's impossible. Then you will fail, like all the others, Elara said simply. Tyler set down his cleaning supplies and approached the hologram cautiously. May I? He asked, gesturing to the controls. Elara nodded. Tyler began manipulating the display, zooming in on different sections of the anomaly, studying the data that flowed across the screens. His brow furrowed in concentration. Thelmar leaned close to Elara. This is madness, Your Highness. He is a human maintenance worker. He is also a physics student, Elara whispered back. And look at him. He's already engaging with the problem differently than the others. Indeed, while most royal suitors had immediately tried to impress Elara with grand theories and complex calculations, Tyler was quietly absorbing the information, his hands moving through the data with surprising confidence. Even if by some miracle he solves the puzzle, the council will never accept a human janitor as your consort, Thelmar insisted. Let me worry about the council, Elara replied. For now, I want to see what he does. After several minutes of silent examination, Tyler looked up. I'll need access to your historical flight data through the Nexus, and any atmospheric readings from the planets surrounding it. Elara smiled. Granted, Thelmar will provide you with a workspace in the adjacent chamber and full access to our scientific database. Your Highness, Thelmar protested. Now, advisor, Elara commanded. With a final disapproving look, Thelmar led Tyler from the royal chambers. When they were gone, Elara turned back to the window, gazing at the stars beyond. For the first time in months, she felt a flutter of hope. In the adjacent workspace, Tyler found himself surrounded by more advanced technology than he had ever seen on Earth. Holographic displays filled the room, and a neural interface allowed him to access data simply by thinking about it. It was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. You have until this time tomorrow, Thelmar said stiffly. Though I don't know why Her Highness is wasting her time, and ours, with this charade. Tyler ignored the jab and focused on the task at hand. As Thelmar left, Tyler dove into the data, losing himself in the puzzle that had stumped the greatest minds of multiple civilizations. Hours passed as he worked, occasionally pausing to pace the room or mutter to himself. Palace servants brought food and drinks, which he barely touched. By the time night fell on Valerius, Tyler had filled several holographic boards with equations and diagrams. He had just reached a frustrating dead end when the door opened, and Princess Elara entered. Tyler scrambled to his feet, suddenly aware of his disheveled appearance. Your Highness, I didn't expect. At ease, she said, waving a hand. I often check on candidates during their attempt. How are you progressing? Tyler ran a hand through his hair. Honestly, I'm stuck. Your scientists have collected incredible data, but I keep hitting the same wall they did. Alara approached his workstation, studying his equations. You've made remarkable progress for someone with only Earth-level education. Thanks, I think, Tyler said. But it's not enough. The void nexus doesn't follow any physics model I understand. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Perhaps you need to look beyond conventional physics, Alara suggested. Tyler frowned. What do you mean? Instead of answering directly, Alara gestured to a small object on a pedestal in the corner of the room. Do you know what that is? Tyler walked over to examine it. The object appeared to be a small, multifaceted crystal that glowed with an inner light. Some kind of energy source? It's a memory crystal, Alara explained. It contains the accumulated knowledge of my ancestors, going back thousands of years. Every royal of Valerius contributes their memories and insights before death. That's amazing technology, Tyler said, genuinely impressed. It's not technology, Alara corrected. At least, not in the way you understand it. We call it biomystical engineering, a merging of biological processes with energy manipulation that your scientists might call magic. Tyler raised an eyebrow. There's no such thing as magic. Just science we don't understand yet. Alara smiled. Precisely. Perhaps the solution to the void nexus lies in science you don't understand yet. She moved to leave, then paused at the door. None of the royal candidates thought to ask about the memory crystal, even though it sits in plain view. They were too focused on impressing me with what they already knew to look for new knowledge. After she left, Tyler stood staring at the crystal for a long moment. Then he turned back to his workstation with renewed determination. If the key to solving this puzzle lay beyond conventional physics, he would need to expand his thinking. As dawn broke on Valerius, Tyler's workspace had transformed. Holographic models floated throughout the room, interconnected by glowing lines of energy. He had abandoned traditional equations in favor of a more fluid approach, incorporating elements from the memory crystal's biomystical principles. When Alara and Thelmar entered precisely one day after the challenge began, they found Tyler standing in the center of his creation, manipulating energy flows with his hands. Time's up, human, Thelmar announced with barely concealed satisfaction. What have you to show for your efforts? Tyler turned, dark circles under his eyes but excitement on his face. I think I understand the void nexus now. With a gesture, he collapsed all his work into a single holographic model that hovered between them. It showed the nexus not as a physical anomaly, but as a living entity of sorts, pulsing with rhythmic energy. The nexus isn't a disruption in space-time, Tyler explained. It's a conscious entity, or at least, it behaves like one. It doesn't randomly displace ships. It redirects them based on a form of communication we weren't recognizing. Alara's eyes widened. Communication? Yes, Tyler said eagerly. Your ship's navigation systems emit energy signatures that the Nexus interprets as instructions. But it's not listening to your plotted coordinates. It's responding to the harmonic resonance of your engine cores. He manipulated the hologram, showing how different energy frequencies produce different responses from the Nexus. If you modulate your ship's power systems to emit specific harmonic patterns, you can essentially ask the Nexus to send you where you want to go. It's not about forcing your way through. It's about having a conversation. Thelmar scoffed. Preposterous. You expect us to believe the Void Nexus is some kind of sentient being. Not sentient in the way we are, Tyler clarified. More like a complex, self-organizing system that responds to certain stimuli. Think of it as an instrument that plays different notes depending on how you touch it. Alara approached the hologram, studying it intently. You're suggesting we could navigate the Nexus reliably by what? Playing the right song to it. In a manner of speaking, yes, Tyler nodded. I've developed a theoretical model for how to generate the correct harmonic patterns for any desired destination. It would need testing, of course, but the math checks out. Alara circled the display, examining it from all angles. Her expression was unreadable. And how did you arrive at this conclusion? The memory crystal, Tyler admitted. It showed me how energy and consciousness can intertwine in ways I never considered possible. Once I stopped thinking of the Nexus as a problem to be solved and started seeing it as a system to be understood, everything fell into place. Thelmar laughed derisively. This is absurd. Your Highness, surely you don't believe this human has succeeded where the greatest minds in seven-star systems have failed. Alara raised her hand for silence, still studying the model. Have you considered the implications of your theory, Tyler Grant? If the Void Nexus responds to communication, what else might it be capable of? Tyler hesitated. I've been thinking about that. If my model is correct, the Nexus could potentially be used for more than just navigation. It could serve as a communication network spanning vast distances, maybe even a power source that could be tapped safely. A slow smile spread across Alara's face. She turned to Thelmar. Inform the council. The test has been passed. Thelmar's jaw dropped. Your Highness, you can't be serious. This theory is completely untested. And even if it were valid, he is a human janitor. He is Tyler Grant of Earth, Alara corrected. And he has demonstrated precisely the qualities I seek in a consort: creativity, humility, and the ability to see beyond established boundaries. She turned to Tyler, who stood speechless. The law states that any who pass the royal test may be considered as my consort. You have passed where 78 princes failed. Tyler's mind raced. Your Highness, I'm honored, but this is happening very fast. I came here to clean floors, not to marry a princess or help run a star system. I understand your hesitation, Alara said, and I do not expect an immediate answer. But know this, what you have accomplished today could transform interstellar travel throughout known space. That alone makes you worthy of consideration. Before Tyler could respond, the chamber doors burst open. A royal guard rushed in, his face grave. Your Highness, we've received an emergency signal from the outpost near the Void Nexus. A Dracovian battle fleet has emerged from the anomaly and is heading directly for Valerius. Alara's expression hardened. How many ships? At least 50, Your Highness. They bypassed all our early warning systems by using the Nexus. They'll reach our atmosphere within 6 hours. The Dracovians? Tyler asked. Who are they? A warrior race from the far side of the galaxy, Thelmar explained grimly. They've been expanding their territory for decades. If they found a way to navigate the Nexus reliably, then nowhere in the seven systems is safe, Alara finished. She turned to Tyler. It seems your theory about communication with the Nexus was correct, and the Dracovians discovered it before us. Tyler looked from the princess to the holographic display of his work. Not necessarily. If they figured out basic navigation, they're still just scratching the surface. My model suggests much more complex interactions are possible. Explain, Alara demanded. If the Nexus responds to harmonic patterns, then theoretically, we could generate a counter pattern, like noise-canceling technology on Earth. We might be able to disrupt whatever method they're using to navigate. Hope flickered in Alara's eyes. Could you develop such a counter pattern? Tyler took a deep breath. What had he gotten himself into? Yesterday, he was cleaning royal chambers. Today, he was potentially the only person standing between a peaceful star system and an invading fleet. I can try, he said finally. But I'll need help. Engineers who understand your propulsion systems and access to a ship that can get close enough to the Dracovian fleet to broadcast the counter pattern. Alara nodded decisively. You shall have whatever resources you require. She turned to the guard. Assemble the Royal Science Division immediately and prepare my personal vessel for departure. Your personal vessel? Thelmar exclaimed. Your Highness, you cannot possibly be considering going yourself. This is my kingdom to defend, advisor, Alara said firmly. And if Tyler's theory is our only hope, I intend to see it implemented personally. She turned back to Tyler. It seems your royal test has only just begun, Tyler Grant of Earth. Are you ready for the challenge? Tyler looked at the determined princess, the skeptical advisor, and the complex problem before him. He was way out of his depth, but strangely, he had never felt more alive. Ready as I'll ever be, Your Highness, he replied with a nervous smile. Though I should warn you, I've never saved a star system before. Alara's silver eyes sparkled with unexpected warmth. There's a first time for everything. Let's go make history. As they rushed from the chamber toward an uncertain confrontation, Tyler couldn't help but wonder how cleaning the royal quarters had led to this moment. Whatever happened next, his life would never be the same again. Princess Alera's royal vessel, the Stellar Javelin, cut through space with elegant precision. The ship was smaller than Tyler had expected, built for speed rather than combat, with a crew of only 20 elite pilots and engineers. In the ship's central laboratory, Tyler worked frantically alongside the Royal Science Division. Holographic displays surrounded him, tracking the approaching Dracovian fleet while he refined his counterpattern theory. "How's it coming?" Alera asked, entering the lab. She had exchanged her formal royal attire for a sleek captain's uniform, her silver hair pulled back in a practical braid. Tyler rubbed his tired eyes. "Progress, but slowly. Your scientists are brilliant, but they keep overthinking the problem." Chief Scientist Lorexa bristled. "With respect, Your Highness, the human's approach lacks rigor. His theories on biomystical resonance with the void nexus are getting results," Tyler interrupted, pointing to a simulation running on one of the displays. It showed a small energy pattern disrupting a larger one. "My counterpattern works in theory. We just need to scale it up and fine-tune the frequency." "And how do you propose we broadcast such a pattern?" Lorexa challenged. "Our transmitters weren't designed for this kind of application." Tyler hesitated. This was where things got complicated. "We don't broadcast it. We need to generate it directly at the edge of the nexus, where the harmonic resonance is strongest. That would put us directly in the path of the Dracovian fleet," Captain Navari pointed out from the doorway. The ship's commander had been skeptical of Tyler from the start. "Exactly," Tyler confirmed. "We position ourselves between the fleet and Valerius, at the precise coordinates where the Nexus's energy signature is most concentrated. When the Dracovians approach, we activate the counter pattern." "And what happens then?" Alera asked. "If I'm right, it'll disrupt their navigation methods. Best case scenario, they get sent back through the Nexus to random locations. Worst case, they just get confused long enough for Valerius to prepare its defenses." Alera studied the displays thoughtfully. "How close to completion is your counterpattern?" "We've got the basic framework," Tyler said, "but I need to calibrate it to match the specific frequency the Dracovians are using. For that, we need to get close enough to analyze their ships." "That's suicide," Captain Navari stated flatly. "Not necessarily," Alera countered. "The Stellar Javelin has advanced cloaking technology. We could approach undetected." "That's still an enormous risk," Lorexa said. "If the counter-pattern fails, we'll be directly in the path of a Dracovian battle fleet with no defense." Alera looked at Tyler. "What do you think? Is it worth the risk?" All eyes turned to him. The human janitor suddenly responsible for the fate of a star system. Tyler swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their expectation. "I believe it will work," he said carefully. "But there's something else we should consider. If the Dracovians figured out how to navigate the Nexus, they might also be prepared for countermeasures. We need a backup plan. What do you suggest?" Alera asked. Tyler turned to one of the displays, bringing up the detailed model of the void nexus he had created during his test. "When I was studying the memory crystal, I saw hints of something deeper, a way to not just communicate with the nexus, but potentially control aspects of it. If we could temporarily alter its resonance pattern." "You're suggesting we change the nexus itself?" Lorexa asked incredulously. "Not change it, exactly," Tyler clarified. "More like, ask it nicely to behave differently for a little while." Captain Navari scoffed. "Ask a spatial anomaly nicely? This is absurd. No more absurd than my theory about harmonic communication, which appears to be exactly what the Dracovians are using," Tyler countered. "Look, I know how it sounds. But there's something about the Nexus that responds to intention and pattern. It's why your ships got redirected randomly. Each captain had different intentions, creating conflicting resonance patterns." Alera stepped closer to the display. "You think we could create a unified intention strong enough to influence the Nexus?" "Maybe," Tyler said, "but it would take more energy than our ship can generate." The princess was quiet for a moment, her silver eyes focused inward. Then she reached into her uniform and pulled out a small pendant, a miniature version of the memory crystal Tyler had studied. "Would this help?" she asked, holding it out. Tyler stared at it. "Is that a royal memory crystal?" Alara confirmed. "The concentrated essence of 1,000 years of my ancestors' knowledge and intention. Normally, it's used in the coronation ceremony, but these are exceptional circumstances." Lorexa gasped. "Your Highness, using the royal crystal outside the sacred chamber is forbidden. So is letting my people be conquered by Dracovians," Alara replied firmly. She turned to Tyler. "Could this provide the energy focus you need?" Tyler reached out hesitantly, then stopped. "I wouldn't know how to use it properly. The risk of damage." "I will guide you," Alara said, closing the distance between them. "Together, we might succeed where either of us alone would fail." Their eyes met, and Tyler felt something shift between them, a connection deeper than their brief acquaintance should allow. He nodded slowly. "Okay, let's try both approaches. We prepare the counter pattern as our primary plan, and develop the resonance modification as backup." "Agreed," Alara said. "Captain Navari, set course for the edge of the Nexus. We have 4 hours until the Dracovians reach Valerius. Let's make them count." As the stellar javelin accelerated toward its dangerous position, Tyler and the science team worked relentlessly. The counter pattern took shape, becoming more refined with each simulation. Meanwhile, Tyler and Alara worked on the backup plan, combining his theoretical understanding with her practical knowledge of the memory crystal. "Tell me something," Alara said during a rare quiet moment. They were alone in a small observation room, taking a brief rest while the final calculations ran. "Why did you really leave your studies on Earth?" Tyler looked surprised. "I told you. There was an accident, and I lost my scholarship." "Yes, but there's more to it, isn't there?" Alara pressed gently. "Someone with your mind could have found another path to continue their education." Tyler sighed, gazing out at the stars. "You're right. The accident was just the final straw. I've been struggling for a while, not with the material, but with the approach. Earth physics is so rigid. Everything has to fit into existing models. When I proposed alternatives, my professors said I was wasting time on science fiction. So you became a janitor in space instead," Alara said with a small smile. Tyler laughed. "When you put it that way, it sounds either very brave or very stupid." "Perhaps both," Alara suggested. "The line between bravery and foolishness is often thin. What matters is the intention behind the action." "What about you?" Tyler asked. "Why create such an impossible test for your suitors?" Alara's smile faded. "Because ruling Valerius requires more than noble blood or diplomatic connections. It requires vision, the ability to see beyond conventional wisdom. I didn't want a consort who would simply agree with tradition. I needed someone who could help lead our people into a new era. And you think that's me? A human janitor with unfinished physics degree. I think," Alara said carefully, "that you've already proven yourself more capable than 78 princes. The rest remains to be seen." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the bridge. "Your Highness, we've reached the designated coordinates. The Dracovian fleet is 30 minutes away." Alara stood immediately. "We're coming. Prepare all systems as instructed." As they hurried to the bridge, Tyler asked, "Are you afraid?" Alara didn't break stride. "Yes, but fear is a poor advisor. We will do what must be done." The bridge of the stellar javelin hummed with tense activity as final preparations were made. Through the main viewport, Tyler could see the swirling energies of the void nexus in the distance, beautiful and terrifying in its chaotic power. "Dracovian fleet detected," a sensor officer announced. 53 vessels, maintaining formation. They'll pass within 1,000 kilometers of our position. Cloaking systems at maximum, Captain Navari reported. But we can't guarantee they won't detect us at such close range. Alara took her place at the command center. Activate the primary counter pattern on my mark. Tyler stood beside her, monitoring the energy readouts. Counter pattern ready. We'll only get one shot at this. The power requirements will drain our reserves. And if it fails? Lorexa asked from her station. Then we immediately implement the backup plan, Alara stated. Is the crystal interface prepared? Yes, Your Highness, a technician confirmed, indicating a newly constructed apparatus at the center of the bridge. The royal memory crystal hovered within a containment field, connected to the ship's systems by threads of light. Alara nodded. Everyone understand their roles. The crew voiced their acknowledgement, and Tyler felt a surge of admiration for the princess. In crisis, she was calm, authoritative, and clear, a born leader. Dracovian fleet now visible, the sensor officer announced. On the main screen, the enemy ships came into view, massive, angular vessels bristling with weapons. They moved with precise coordination, forming a wedge formation as they approached the edge of the nexus. They're slowing, Tyler observed. They need to calibrate their resonance pattern before proceeding. This is our chance, Alara said. Prepare to activate counter pattern on my command. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the Dracovian ships drew closer. Tyler watched the readouts, waiting for the perfect moment when their resonance pattern would be most vulnerable. Now, he said quietly to Alara. Activate counter pattern, she ordered. The stellar javelin shuddered as enormous energy surged through its systems. A visible wave rippled outward from the ship, invisible to normal sight, but blazing on the sensor displays. It struck the Dracovian fleet like a silent tsunami. For a breathless moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the lead Dracovian ships began to drift, their precise formation wavering. Confusion spread through the fleet as their carefully calibrated resonance patterns collapsed. It's working, Lorexer exclaimed, but Tyler frowned at his readings. Only partially. They're adapting faster than I expected. The lead ships are already recalibrating. Indeed, the Dracovian fleet was quickly reorganizing, adjusting to the disruption. While some smaller vessels continued to drift, the larger battleships had already stabilized. They must have redundant systems, Captain Navari said grimly. This only bought us minutes, not hours. A warning klaxon sounded. Our cloaking field is failing, a technician reported. Power reserves at critical levels. We've been detected, the sensor officer confirmed. 3 Dracovian destroyers are breaking formation, heading directly for us. Alara's expression remained composed. Implement backup plan immediately. All non-essential personnel to emergency stations. As crew members rushed to comply, Alara turned to Tyler. This is where your theory faces its ultimate test. Tyler moved to the crystal interface, his hands hovering over the controls. I still don't know if this will work. The resonance modification is theoretical at best. Theory becomes reality through action, Alara said, joining him at the interface. She placed her hands on the crystal itself, and it brightened at her touch. My ancestors' knowledge flows through this crystal. Let it guide us. Tyler placed his hands beside hers. The crystal's glow intensified, spreading up their arms in swirling patterns of light. Focus your intention, Alara instructed, her voice taking on a resonant quality. See the nexus as a living system. Feel its patterns, its rhythms. Tyler closed his eyes, concentrating on the mental image of the void nexus. In his mind, he could see its swirling energies, feel its complex harmonies. Following Alara's lead, he projected his intention, not forcing, but requesting. The ship trembled as the first Dracovian weapons fire struck their shields. Shields at 60%, someone shouted distantly. Tyler barely heard them. He was deep in connection with the crystal and, through it, with Alara. Their minds touched in a way he couldn't have imagined possible, unified in purpose and vision. Together, they reached out to the void nexus. On the main screen, the nexus began to change. Its swirling patterns shifted, energy tendrils reaching out toward the Dracovian fleet. The enemy ships suddenly found themselves caught in an unpredictable gravitational pull. Incredible, Lorexa whispered, staring at her readings. The nexus is responding to their harmonic pattern, but inversely, it's pulling them in rather than letting them pass through. The Dracovian ships fought against the pull, engines flaring as they tried to maintain their course. But one by one, They were dragged toward the swirling vortex of the Nexus. They're attempting to modify their resonance pattern, Captain Navari reported. But they can't match the rate of change. The lead Dracovian battleship was the first to be engulfed by the Nexus, disappearing in a flash of energy. Others followed, their formations breaking apart as panic spread through their fleet. Ships collided in their desperate attempts to escape, creating cascading explosions. Direct hit, a tactical officer shouted as the stellar javelin rocked violently. Port shields down, hull breach on deck 3. Emergency containment activated, another officer responded. Casualties reported. Tyler forced himself to maintain focus despite the chaos. The connection with the crystal was taking its toll. His body felt like it was burning from the inside out. Beside him, Alara's face was strained with effort, but her determination never wavered. Almost there, she managed through gritted teeth. The last of the Dracovian ships vanished into the Nexus. As suddenly as it had begun, the anomalous behavior of the vortex ceased, returning to its usual chaotic patterns. Tyler and Alara collapsed as the connection broke, the crystal dimming to its normal glow. Medical staff rushed forward to attend them as Captain Navari took command. Damage report. Navari ordered. Hull breaches contained. 12 crew members injured, none critical. Power systems at 20% and holding. The Dracovian fleet? Alara asked weakly. Lorexa checked her instruments. Gone, Your Highness. Our sensors detect no trace of them in this sector. The Nexus appears to have redistributed them. Where to? Tyler asked, accepting a hydration pack from a medic. Impossible to say with certainty, Lorexa admitted. But based on the resonance patterns at the moment of engulfment, likely scattered across thousands of light years. It would take them decades to regroup, even if they survived the transition. Alara attempted to stand, wavering slightly until Tyler steadied her. Set course for Valerius, she ordered, and prepare a full report for the Council. They need to understand what we've witnessed here today. As the stellar javelin limped home, Tyler found himself wondering what would happen next. The immediate crisis was over, but so many questions remained. What exactly was the Void Nexus? How had he and Alara managed to influence it? And what did this mean for his future? 3 days later, Tyler stood before the Council of Elders in the Grand Hall of Valerius. The massive chamber was filled to capacity with nobles, scientists, and dignitaries all eager to hear the official account of the Dracovian defeat. Tyler felt distinctly out of place in the formal attire he'd been provided. The richly embroidered tunic and pants were more elaborate than anything he'd ever worn, making him acutely aware of his humble origins. Princess Alara sat on a raised dais with the council members, looking every inch the royal heir in her ceremonial regalia. She had recovered quickly from their ordeal, though the royal physicians had insisted on monitoring both of them for residual effects from their unprecedented use of the memory crystal. Tyler Grant of Earth, the chief elder, addressed him. You stand before this council as both an enigma and a savior. A human janitor who passed the royal test where 78 princes failed. A physicist without credentials who understood our greatest cosmological mystery. And now, the architect of a defense that has saved our system from invasion. The elder paused, his ancient eyes studying Tyler carefully. What are we to make of you? Tyler cleared his throat nervously. With respect, elder, I'm just someone who looked at a problem differently. Sometimes an outside perspective is valuable precisely because it isn't bound by established thinking. Well said, another elder commented. Yet the fact remains that you have demonstrated abilities and insights far beyond your station. The council must determine what this means for Valerius. Alara rose from her seat. If I may address the council? The chief elder nodded. The crown princess may speak. Honorable elders, Alara began. The events of the past week have demonstrated something I have long believed, that greatness can emerge from unexpected sources. Tyler Grant passed my test not because of noble lineage or advanced training, but because of his unique way of thinking. She stepped down from the dais, moving to stand beside Tyler. The ancient laws are clear. Any who pass the royal test may be considered as consort to the crown princess. I have made my choice. Murmurs swept through the chamber. The chief elder raised his hand for silence. Princess Alara, while the law does allow such a choice, it has never been applied to a non-citizen of Valerius, much less a human. There are considerations. What considerations? Alara challenged. That he lacks royal blood? The same royal blood that produced 78 candidates who failed where he succeeded? Or perhaps that his species is newer to interstellar travel. Yet it was precisely his human perspective that saved us. The princess makes valid points, a female elder conceded. However, a royal consort must be prepared to help rule a star system. Does this human possess such capabilities? All eyes turned to Tyler. He took a deep breath before responding. 3 weeks ago, I was cleaning floors and wondering how I'd pay off my student loans, he said honestly. I never imagined standing here, being considered for such a role. I don't know your laws or customs as well as a native citizen would. What I do know is that when faced with an impossible problem, I found a solution. When confronting an enemy fleet, I helped protect your people. He glanced at Alara, drawing strength from her confidence in him. If Princess Alara believes I can contribute to Valerius as her consort, then I'm willing to learn whatever I need to fulfill that role. But I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I'm a human from Earth who sees problems differently. That's all I can offer. The chamber fell silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, Thelmar stepped forward from among the courtiers. Esteemed council, the advisors said. When the princess first selected this human for her test, I was appalled. I believed it made mockery of our sacred traditions. I was wrong. Thelmar turned to face the assembled crowd. I have witnessed Tyler Grant solve our greatest scientific mystery in a single day. I have seen him devise strategies that our finest military minds overlooked. And most importantly, I have observed how he approaches challenges, not with arrogance or entitlement, but with humility and creativity. He bowed to Alara. Your Highness has chosen wisely, as I should have expected. The council would be foolish to reject such a consort based merely on tradition. More voices joined in support, including Captain Navari and Chief Scientist Lorexa, both testifying to Tyler's actions during the Dracovian crisis. As the testimonials continued, the elders conferred among themselves in hushed tones. Finally, the chief elder raised his hand for silence once more. The council has reached a decision. Tyler Grant of Earth stepped forward. Tyler approached the dais, his heart pounding. In recognition of your service to Valerius and your unprecedented achievement in passing the royal test, you are hereby granted full citizenship of the 7 systems, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The elder paused. Furthermore, the council acknowledges Princess Alara's right to choose her consort according to ancient law. If you accept this role, you will be expected to study our ways and prepare to help govern alongside the future queen. Tyler looked at Alara, who was watching him with those remarkable silver eyes. In them, he saw not just a princess who had taken a chance on a janitor, but a brilliant woman who valued his mind and believed in his potential. I accept, Tyler said firmly, and I promise to serve Valerius to the best of my abilities. The chief elder nodded solemnly. Then it is settled. Let the preparations for the royal union begin. As the formal proceedings concluded and the crowd dispersed into celebratory groups, Tyler and Alara found a moment of privacy in a side chamber. So, Tyler said, still processing everything that had happened. From janitor to royal consort in 1 week. That has to be some kind of record. Alara laughed, the sound lightening the formality that had surrounded her in the council chamber. Perhaps, though I should warn you, the real work is only beginning. Ruling Valerius is not for the faint of heart. Good thing I've got a strong one, Tyler replied with a smile. Then, more seriously, are you sure about this? There must be more qualified candidates somewhere in the universe. More traditionally qualified, perhaps, Alara conceded. But qualification is not what I sought. I needed someone who could see beyond tradition. Someone who could help Valerius evolve beyond what it has always been. She took his hands in hers, and Tyler felt again that strange connection they had shared through the memory crystal. When we faced the void nexus together, our minds linked in perfect harmony. That is rare even among my people who have practiced such techniques for centuries. It suggests a compatibility that transcends species or status. Tyler squeezed her hands gently. I still have a lot to learn about your world. And I have much to learn about yours, Alara countered. That's the beauty of it, don't you see? Together, we bring perspectives neither of us would have alone. Tyler thought about his journey, from struggling physics student to space janitor to royal consort. It was absurd, impossible, and yet somehow felt right. When I was younger, my professor once told me that sometimes the most important scientific breakthroughs come from the least expected places. A wise professor, Alara said. Yeah, though he still failed me when I suggested that quantum particles might respond to intention, Tyler added with a wry smile. I wonder what he'd think if he could see me now. Perhaps one day you can show him, Alara suggested. Cultural exchange between Earth and Valerius would benefit both our peoples. Tyler's smile widened. First royal consort, now interstellar diplomat? You really do believe in pushing boundaries. Always, Alara confirmed. It's why I chose you, after all. As they rejoined the celebration, Tyler caught Thelmar's eye across the room. The advisor raised his glass in a subtle toast, acknowledgement that his initial judgment had been wrong. Tyler nodded in return, grateful for the unexpected support. In the months that followed, Tyler immersed himself in learning the history, laws, and customs of Valerius. Alara proved an excellent teacher, patient with his mistakes and generous with her knowledge. Together, they continued to study the void nexus, developing new theories about its nature and potential applications. Their formal union took place a year later, coinciding with the celestial alignment as tradition required. Representatives from Earth attended, including Tyler's former professors, who could scarcely believe their former student was now consort to an alien princess. Not bad for a janitor, huh? Tyler joked to one particularly astonished professor after the ceremony. I always knew you had potential, the professor claimed unconvincingly. Though I must admit, this exceeds even my most optimistic projections. As the celebrations continued around them, Alara drew Tyler away to a quiet balcony overlooking the capital city. The 3 moons of Valerius shone brightly overhead, casting multiple shadows across the crystalline landscape. Happy? She asked, leaning against the railing beside him. Tyler looked at his wife, still strange to think of the crown princess of a star system that way, and smiled. More than I ever thought possible. Though I still can't believe all this started because you needed someone to clean your royal quarters. Alara laughed. I needed someone to see what everyone else had missed. You just happened to be pushing a mop at the right time. Fate has a sense of humor, Tyler agreed. He gazed out at the city that would one day be partly his responsibility to govern. You know, back on Earth, there's an old saying, sometimes the right person for the job is the last one you'd expect. Your Earth has wisdom, Alara said softly. Though I prefer another saying we have on Valerius. Look beyond the surface, and you may find the stars. Tyler turned to her, struck again by how fortunate he was. I think I like your version better. As they shared a kiss beneath the triple moonlight, Tyler reflected that sometimes the most unexpected paths led to the most extraordinary destinations. From failed physics student to royal consort of an alien princess. It was a journey no one could have predicted, least of all himself. But perhaps that was the point. Innovation, discovery, love, all required looking beyond the expected, seeing possibilities where others saw only limitations. In the end, that was what had allowed a human janitor to succeed where 78 princes had failed. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.